there, guys. I am getting set up to do an Instagram Live. I'm working on this piece right here, and I'm gonna go one notch up, which means I know I need to adjust my setup just a little bit. There we go, guys. Let's see. So I hope you guys are having a really good day. Today is the first day of my Floral Still Life class that I'm teaching for the next 6 weeks. And as a perk for all my online classes, I always do an additional hour of online painting demonstration for my students. And yeah, so here we are. We're working on azaleas this morning. And there are they have some pretty wonderful stuff. Hey, and I'm so glad you're here. Hi Gita, I'm glad you're here too. KIG and Sanchi, glad you're here. Hi Pam. So I'm getting ready to get started. I've got to get my gloves on. When you're painting with oils, I always encourage everybody to follow good kind of skills for studio practice that do prevent some exposure to some of the elements that are in oil painting. You have the earth tones, which are essentially pulverized earth. But you also have colors like cobalt blue, which are just gorgeous, gorgeous blues, but they have the heavy metal cobalt in them, which can be kind of poisonous. As are your cadmium colors. Those have cadmium metals in them. That's not a good thing. You don't want to be getting exposed to that. And then your titanium white is a heavy metal, as is lead white, as is zinc white. So all of your whites are heavy metals. And so that is. So I always wear gloves. And just make sure that I'm being as safe as possible. Oh, good, Karen. I'm glad you're here to see. I'm so glad you like my work. Thank you. So I have been having so much fun, working in this block in. So with my students, I started with a big brush. I was using number 6 extra long filbert, and I actually probably will continue working, but then I had just gotten to where I was going to be shifting down to a number 3, but I think actually I'm going to try to cover the canvas in this hour. So that means I'm going to go back to my bigger brush, because I always like to start my paintings and get in my big shapes in as big as with as big a brush as I can, because it forces my brain to think. Oops, look at that. It forces my brain to be more interpretive. I can't focus on details when I'm working with a big old brush, because the brush affects affects how much detail I can put in, which is a good thing, guys. So you always kind of want to start off your painting with as big of abstract shapes as you can. So okay, so so I also always like to soften my edges between my horizon and my background. I like softening that edge. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to kind of start working on getting in my background the base color for my wood as well, and then the shadow shapes. So if you notice, these are going to be azaleas, but I blocked them in pretty. I definitely interpreted them. I thought about them as shapes first and foremost, not as flowers. And So yeah, so I'm getting my shadow shapes in on my base, and let's see. Okay, so when I blocked in, it actually goes more horizontal. There we go. Some shadow shape. And then the wood is kind of a lighter color. That's what's in light. So I'm gonna grab and get that down. So these are azaleas from my garden, and I am always so surprised by spring. I'm always so excited for spring, but the thing that surprises me every spring, I mean, like, even though I know it's going to be like this, but every spring I'm always surprised by how quickly like flower seasons come and go. Like, for example, my azaleas came in season, and I was walked right before this Instagram live. I went outside to walk around in my garden, and most of my azalea bushes are already spent. They're, the blooms have gone, and so every, in the springtime, the flower season is so short, and I always get surprised by how short it is, and it creates this sense of like, oh my gosh, I have to paint every day to make sure that I don't miss a single flower that I love in the springtime. Let's see, is that a burnt umber you're using? No, I am not using burnt umber, actually. My block-in lines are with burnt umber, Sanchi. But this is a mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, transparent red oxide, because I want transparency. Burnt umber is an opaque pigment. It's granular and opaque. And when I'm putting down this wood surface, this horizontal wood surface, I want a little bit more translucency. So I want my pigments to be more translucent. So that means I'm purposely using mixtures that have a little bit more transparency to them. If I had used burnt umber, it would have been too opaque. So good question. Thanks for asking. So there's a couple of shadow shapes I need to get in that I didn't put in from the azaleas. So I'm going to kind of get those in for down too. I want to get that. Okay, so I like to work back to front. So that's one of the reasons why I'm getting the tabletop in, because I want to work on those two little flowers, and then I also want to work on the bowl. Excuse me, guys, for the cough. I need to get a drink of water. Yeah, so we have got so many wonderful people tuned in today, so I really appreciate it. So for the new people that are new to me and new to this, I teach weekly classes on Tuesdays and on Wednesdays. When those classes are in term, I do an addition, and all these classes are online classes. I do an additional demonstration for them via Instagram Lives, and so essential, and this enables the classes to have more time dedicated to them and their work, but at the same time, it is so entertaining and so wonderful to continue to watch people paint. I mean, to me, it's like the most soothing things to just sit and watch people paint. And so then this gives people an opportunity to watch a little bit more of my painting process and me demonstrating the lesson of the class, the daytime of what we've what we've done that day. And so yeah, so I'm working on with my big brush, trying to get this, I have a bowl that I need to get in, so I'm getting that bowl in, and so I'm just getting this in. So like I'm using a little bit too much pressure because I'm picking up some of my underpainting, which I don't like doing. So I got to clean my brush, reload my paint brush, and make sure that my brush is fully loaded so I can use a lighter touch, so I'm not picking up so much. I'm even changing the direction of my brush strokes because maybe that will help me get that shift in pressure too, which I think it did. So I love painting. I love painting. I love flowers. And I like just getting to explore topics. To me, painting is one of the most like refreshing things to do. You can. It's like meditation. If you've been my student before, you've heard me say this before. But if you're new to me, I view painting or any art creating, so like drawing, to me painting in particular, but drawing too. It's very meditative. It's very. It asks me to really slow down and to kind of think of only one thing at one time and like come back to it as like maybe my brain might want to stray and think about other things. And so that's one of the things that I love so much about painting, is that in a busy world, taking that extra time to paint can just really make the day feel so much richer, so much fuller. And I love that. I love that about painting. So I gotta get, that's darker because it's more in shadow than what I had initially put in. And oh, those are leaves. Okay. Sometimes I look and I don't see, so they're actually leaves, but I'm going to put in a dark base and then I'll put the leaves back in. Let's see, Sanchi, she wants to know my shadow mix on my bowl. It is a mixture of blue and burnt sienna, transparent red oxide, because again I want more of a transparent mix, but it's a different ratio. So like this ratio is more the burnt sienna, where this is the more the burnt, the ultramarine blue ratio. Yeah, so there we go. And there's a bit of a lip over here, so I'm going to put that slight shadow shape in. And there's a flower that's looking over, so I'm going to put that shadow shape there. And like in my reference, there is a shadow cast by this flower, but I don't think it does anything for my setup, so I'm going to ignore it. We're not recreating a photograph. We're not recreating a setup that we're working from. If we're working from life, we are creating an interpretation. We're using our artistic ability, our voice, to make decisions. So we don't always have to like be automatic and repeat what we see. There's a little bit of reflected light in here, so I want to lighten that up just a wee bit. Okay, so that's working out pretty good. I'm going to soften just a little bit more and soften that edge because it's rolling. So I want to soften that edge just a wee bit. Okay, so yay. So I'm pleased with how that's going. Now I need to work on those two flowers. And then once I get these two flowers in, then I've got the entire like setup, you know, the entire composition is, the entire canvas has been covered with paint, which is, I always strive to do that, especially with a small painting like this. This is a small 8 by 10. So when I'm working small like this, in my first like bit of time, I want to cover the surface. I want to cover the entire surface, and then I go back and start refining. So I need to looks like that needs to be changed a bit. So right now I'm kind of double fisting. I got both my big brush and I got a little brush set up for mixing and painting. There we go. Yeah, I like that. I like how that's working. Okay, so I'm going to still stick with my number 6 till the very end, so to speak, of getting this first layer in, and then I can start shifting down to like that number 3 and get things going. Okay, so let's see. So I've got a little bit of some shadow shapes that I need to be thinking about. And so I use permanent alizarin crimson to create some of my shadow shapes with, what am I using? I've got also cobalt blue in that mixture. Okay, same goes for right here. So that's kind of big. Okay, it looks like right there, and then there's some, actually that's a little bit lighter, so I probably shouldn't, it's okay. Probably need to go pick another lighter color, which I will now. I want my alizarin crimson, but it's not like, it's not true alizarin crimson PR 83. It's the substitute. It's pigment red PR 177, pigment red 177, and that's, in my opinion, that's the best one. So yeah, that's what I like to use. And so right now I'm going to lay in some straight pigment, permanent alizarin crimson as like a base, and then I'll go back in with a lighter value. But I like painting wet and wet, and so I kind of want what this will give. I know what this will give me. So, and there's like another leaf that I got to pay attention to. So let me there's a leaf spot right here, so I need to get that leaf in. right there. Okay, let's get that. And then yeah, that's looking nice. Actually, I think move just a little bit to there. That might actually work a little bit better, because when I'm painting on this side, my camera likes to focus on my hand and not the panel. And so if I do it this way, I think it will, as I am working in this area, it won't get into my hand won't become the focal point of the camera so much. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, so yeah, I am very pleased with how that's turning out. So now it's time for me to investigate the, like, with lighter values. So I'm going to do that next. So I'm now using a mixture of alizarin crimson and permanent rose, because alizarin crimson is just a wee bit too, as it tints down with white, it starts to get a wee bit too cool too fast, and I want it so the permanent rose kind of like shifts that tint a little bit more warm. It's just a subtle touch though. There's still, like, I mean, I'll need to augment my colors just a little bit more as I go on. So I'm still using my big brush, but very, very soon I'm going to shift. But isn't that wonderful? I absolutely love how gestural you can get when you're, when you are working with a big brush. Your brush strokes become very gestural, and I kind of like, there are times when I just absolutely love that gesture that is incorporated into a painting. So okay, so now I'm gonna start moving around again and like heightening a couple of areas that need more attention. So there's this guy. I think I made that a little bit too, there we go. That looks good. I like. So then I will adjust. I've gone a little bit darker in value, but it's still perfect for what I need. Allows me to create these wonderful shapes. I feel so fortunate every day that I get to paint. That I get to paint flowers that I absolutely love, and that there's these opportunities to share this with you guys too. I value that every day, so thank you for being here today. Ah, lovely. Okay. Yep, okay, what do I need to do next? So I'm like tooling along, guys. So now Now, I'm not, I'm, my own work is not very loose, or it's quasi loose, I guess is probably the best way. I do like a good rendered, drawn painting of flowers. So I think, like, I've got this size 3 brush, and I think I'm going to go down to a size 3 and see what I can do with that size 3. But I've got my layers essentially done, and so now it's time for me to start refining again. And one of the things that I'm noticing is like I love how this is playing out right now, but it needs to be fine-tuned. It needs to be, certain aspects of the drawing needs to be improved upon. So I'm going to work on that next, is like improving some of my drawing skills. And like, I don't know if you guys have read the book, The Science and Practice of Drawing by Harold Speed, but if you haven't, get thee to a bookstore and buy it. It is a phenomenal book. I have a book review of written about it in on my blog, in my website. So you under teaching, I think is the there is a favorite art books tab, and or even if you scroll down 100% on the home page, there's a box that says favorite art books, and that book, and there's a book review of that book by Harold Speed, The Science and Practice of Drawing, as is there's a book review on the book Oil Painting Techniques. However, I really prefer the first book, The Science and Practice of Drawing, because he talks about the different types of drawing that we have available to us as humans, and he simplifies it and talks about how painting is a type of drawing, but it's drawing where we're using masses of values, masses of color. And Harold Speed was a tonalist, so he doesn't talk tons about color, and that's probably why I prefer his drawing book, because I don't know if I always agree with his color, what he writes about in color in his Oil Painting Techniques book, though that's a good read too, don't get me wrong. But like, that's what I'm doing right now. I am drawing, but I'm drawing using mass. Like, I'm using shapes of color and value to create the visual idea of three-dimensional form on my picture plane, my two-dimensional picture plane, and I love that. Okay, so I want to clean that up just a little bit more, which means, what do I need to do? I need to set up foreground and background brushes. Okay, so I think I'll still use that as my background is a mixture of cerulean, ultramarine blue, and burnt umber with a little bit of white. Not a ton of white, but just a little bit. And oops. So what I want to do is I want to get, what I'm noticing is that I drew that incorrect a little bit, so I want to redraw and reshape. And I'm using, so sometimes it's that push and pull of going forward then backwards and forward and backwards. So I'm going to do that for Yep, so my background color is that ultramarine blue, a little bit of cerulean blue, and burnt umber. Let's go a little bit darker as it wraps around. Yep. So I got to be careful about not picking up colors. So I got to clean off my brush as soon as I pick up any of that fuchsia color. It's so pretty, but I don't want to be like making my background kind of a purple color. So I'm constantly having to be vigilant about my brush picking up. Oh my goodness, it's raining again outside. It was rainy yesterday and rainy this morning, but then the sun came out at lunchtime and the garden was so pretty. I went outside. Oh gosh, which that reminds me, guys, I got something outside that I need to pull inside. Give me a moment. I'll be right back, but I absolutely have to go outside and rescue it from the outside. Didn't expect that to happen. One moment, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't think it was going to be raining again this afternoon. But oh well, I saved it. What do you know? Okay, so, oh my goodness. Sanchi, no, I do not use titanium white at all. Or, I guess, I may use it, but I only use it on my very topmost layer, and it's only like, maybe 1 in 10 paintings I use titanium white, and it probably doesn't cover even 10% of my surface when I'm painting. I really don't use titanium white. I like lead white. Lead white, flake white, so lead white, pigment white number 1. It's also called flake white or Kremnitz white. Is the more versatile white, in my opinion. You can get more variety of paint effects, and it's just really nice. And the thing is, when you use titanium white, you have to use more of your color pigment. And so, like, yes, titanium white might be cheaper than lead white when you buy the whole tube, but your colored paints are a lot more expensive than your whites. And with titanium white, you end up having to use more of your color paint to get the effect. So, like, I'm a colorist. Now, if I was a tonalist, like someone who mainly painted tonally, where your black and white values was your primacy and you kind of subdued the effects of color, I probably would figure out a way to master and like maximize titanium white. But I'm a colorist. I use a ton of color. I love that visual effect that you can get from color. So for me, I find using like titanium white I end up using way more of my very expensive colors, because like cadmium colors are very expensive. Like a tube of cadmium like red or orange can be anywhere from $40 to $70 for a small tube of like 37 milliliters. And if you have to end up using up like double the amount of your cadmium colors to get something as bright as you would with like lead white and like cadmium red, then that tells me that there's even though the lead white is more expensive, it is in the long run a more economical choice. But I also like the fact for the longest time, it wasn't economics that even inspired me about choosing lead white over titanium white. What influenced my decision-making process was the fact that lead white sets up in a day. Some lead whites, now not all lead whites, like Williamsburg lead white, flake white, they must have something in it that extends the drying process, or it's more oily or something. That one takes like 4 or 5 days to set up, which that's kind of annoying. So then, but like the Cremnitz white that I use from RGH can set up very pretty quickly. Usually in a day. If it's really humid, it might take 2 days. Lead white #1 from Rublev totally sets up in a day. In fact, if it's a dry day, it'll set up in 4 or 5 hours, which is like really cool sometimes when you're trying to work fast and have multiple layers and you want to be glazing. And that's where lead white is the best, because it sets up, where titanium white, it takes really 7 days for it to set up between layers. So that is not cool for me. I like to paint every day, and I like to have my momentum. I don't want my momentum stymied, because my white is drying so slowly that essentially I can't move on to the next layer of development on my painting because it's taking so long. Okay, so the backgrounds are important. They do take time. So I'm getting that together. So there's my little talk about whites. So I am gonna get some more. Shoot, it's really raining outside. That is kind of disappointing. So I'm having to redraw because I got that was a little off. There's no problem. Oil painting is so forgiving that I just have to go back in and kind of fix it, but it fixes, oil. Like I said, oil painting is very forgiving, so I'm just gonna make those fixes, make those improvements. Okay. Okay. Let's see. There we go. Yay. There we go. I like that. I like how that's turning out. So, yeah. And then I see and then that goes down a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so now I need to switch to my greens. Now greens are tricky, can be very tricky with, it's so easy to make your greens like crazy bright and not like what you truly will see in real life. But there are some hacks to greens. Okay, when I lay down wet and wet, I'm making sure that I got a clean color, and then when it gets, when I need it to adjust and darken, I do. Oh, so nice. Now when you guys are painting, I want to encourage all of you to give yourself pep talks. When something is going right, say it. Give that, say it to yourself. Like, I know it sounds kind of goofy, but it's amazing, because there will be those times in your painting process where you go, dang, I made that mistake, or oop, that was the wrong color. But if you're only saying that to yourself, then you're essentially teaching your brain only to look for the problems, and instead of like teaching your brain also to seek out those wins, those little wins. And the reality is, painting is a combination of the little and big wins, and to persevere and keep at it is by constantly making sure you're paying attention to both the little and big wins. So give yourself pep talks. Now, I just painted green over red, which that could cause problems if I'm not being very careful about the way I'm painting wet and wet. But I am being very careful about how I'm painting wet and wet. I'm making sure my brush is fully loaded. I'm also using a very soft touch, and I'm allowing, and then as soon as I pick up paint on my brush, I flip it over so that way it's clean, and I lay in. And then then I clean my brush again. I reload my brush so it becomes fully loaded again, and I'll lay down. And by having this ability to paint wet and wet, using, being able to paint wet and wet over color complements is wonderful, because that's where you create the nuance in your color. That's where you create the nuance in the shapes of what's available to you. And there's nothing better than that when painting, in my opinion. So, okay, we're getting close to the end. So I'm gonna put in, I need to get a couple of dark areas where my green is really dark. So I gotta seek out those dark areas. So I've got a really dark green that I've mixed out of Viridian, ultramarine blue, and a little bit of burnt umber. Now if I just did Viridian and ultramarine blue, it'd be a beautiful color, but it wouldn't be natural. You won't find in nature those colors. So I still want to kind of come up with what is seen in real life. So there. Okay. Some more dark areas. So yeah, I think this is coming together. It's real sweet, very, it's got some really nice notes to it. I'm going to add a couple of the light leaves to give that three-dimensional shape. Gotta that. And then right here, that there. Isn't that nice? Okay, so I am getting close to the hour, and you know, I'm just, as I'm trying to maximize my time and maximize the painting I'm working on, I like to quickly, you know, go through things. And let's see, that needs to go a little bit lighter. So I've got this leaf right here. Need that to go just a wee bit lighter. And then there's another light leaf that I see that there's flicker that I want to capture. I love, one of the things I love about flowers is the flickering lace-like quality of flowers. So so yeah, so I love that about a painting. And yeah, very nice. Yeah, so that's where I would kind of like, I could probably continue on and refine more and more as I go on, but this is a good stopping point for like say the first day, the first layer. Like, I do work my paintings for my studio work in multiple layers, so so I like this, you know, this is kind of like in a good stopping point. I could, like, how I reworked this whole area here is essentially the level of attention I would work everything. So like, what is that? That was, I laid that in. So I did this in 30 minutes. So that's 30 minutes, another 30 minutes, another 30 minutes. So, you know, if I was continuing this painting this afternoon, I'd probably have another 2 hours of refinement on this piece. Then I'll let it set up let the layer set up, and then I would return to it and work on it more. And yeah, so that's it. This is my florals with my floral still life class with oil painting, with oil paints that I teach on Wednesdays. This is the first day of spring term. We go for 6 weeks, and then we have a summer break, and then we start back up. Let me look at my calendar real quick. I'm trying to, pretty certain I have it in my calendar already. I gotta look at month. Yeah, so we start on July 14th for 6 weeks in the summertime, in the summer term. So this is the first of 6 weeks, and then we have we'll have a break for about a month, and then we start back up on July 14th. So I hope you will continue to return on Tuesdays when I'm doing this extra demonstration for my students in my floral still life class. And if you like this, please join me in the summertime. I would love to have you. I would love to have you join us. Otherwise, thank you so much, and have a very, very good day. Let's see. Thank you.